mental health, there is no machine. We cannot take your blood to test for the level of mental health disorder that you have. If you don't open your mouth to speak up or be open enough for an assessment, then nobody can truly, truly know what's going on. So it is very important that people begin to relax into the knowing. And when I say relax into the knowing, I mean, just take deep breaths and be comfortable with talking about it. And I always make this joke because I am a primary care provider as well as a psychiatric mental health provider. So I see patients who come in with high blood pressure issues, diabetes issues. And I say, if you have type 2 diabetes, and the reason why I specifically say type 2 diabetes is because it's totally lifestyle dependent. That you can make certain changes as far as your diet and your exercise routines to address this condition. So I said, you should be ashamed to be talking to me about, or be telling me about your diabetes, because there's a lot that you could have done. But contrary to psychiatric mental health disorders, at times there really isn't anything that you could have done per se. They're just like biological factors, environmental factors that happen, things that happen that are really way out of your control. Okay, so instead, you should be the person that should be crying, hey, I need help, because there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing for you to be holding on to that stigma about. You should freely say, hey, this depression, I might be low on serotonin, I might be low on norepinephrine, but this is not due to any cause of my own. I need help. In that case, guess what? A clinician will come in and say, hey, let's give you some of our serotonin medications that will help you boost you up while we're putting on psychotherapy to help you figure out what is going on. That help will be put in place to help you come out of that state and then begin to function again normally. All right. You can't just wake up one day and say, okay, no, I'm not going to say anything and I'm just going to sit in silence. Nobody's going to know. And in so many unfortunate situations, we will not just find out that you were really suffering when it's too late, when you've probably taken your life and left a note. And the sad part is that the people who are left behind to deal with that are also going to go through a very traumatic experience. All right, especially the person, your loved ones who come and find you gone. And they're now beating themselves that they could have done something. They are now really, really, really sad that they could have been able to be there for you. All right. So the topic of mental health is very broad. But again, I'm trying my best to touch on the very important pieces, which has to do with stigma, which has to do with depression, fear, and anxiety, and suicide. These are the most common things that people go through, and for various reasons. All right. Everybody has a reason why they face whatever psychiatric mental health condition they're going through. And at times it could be an actual disorder, which you've had a diagnosis for a long time. Certain things like schizophrenia, right? At times you're just born with that genetical inclination to be more at risk, you know, especially if there's a family member who has it. It's a tendency that you will have it, especially if you were diagnosed as a teenager or as a kid. That makes it even more strong, which you have to be on medication to help with that, and a lot of psychotherapy. And there's a range of that all the way to as small as maybe just anxiety. And I don't say small meaning that it doesn't mean anything, because some people might just have social anxiety where when they're about to go out or make a presentation like this, and then they become afraid. Their palms will be sweating, their heart will be racing. All right. Those kinds of things we can take care of immediately versus somebody who has an actual disorder that has been ongoing for years. So when you look at this range, you see that no matter who you are, at some point in time in your life, either maybe because you're taking an exam, you are very anxious, you had anxiety, but guess what? It was some kind of good anxiety. I know most of you are like, wait a minute, is there such a thing as good anxiety? Yes, there is, right? Yes, there is. When you have anxiety that is driven by, say, for example, performance. Let's say you are supposed to take an exam. Let's say you're supposed to make a presentation. This is something is about to happen. Maybe your wife is about to have a baby, all right? And you're anxious, you're waiting, you don't know what's going to happen. You're like, please, Lord, help her. That anxiety that comes with it makes you want to do a lot of things. If you're anxious about your exam, it makes you want to study more. It makes you want to get up and study more. If you're anxious because you think a lion is coming at you, it makes you want to run. So all of those things are good because they protect you. It's there for your own protection. It's there to raise that signal that, hey, something is about to happen. How are you going to adjust yourself to address it? But there are times when anxiety could get to the bad side. Remember, I just talked about the good part of anxiety, but then it could get to the point where it's actually crippling you, where you're actually afraid of something that is not even there. Somebody might be afraid that, oh, what if I go out of the house now and a car hits me? Or somebody wants to get on the plane and they're so afraid that, oh my God, what if I get on the plane and then it crashes? And we all know planes don't crash all the time. It's even safer to be up in the plane than to even be in the car or walking on your feet, because it's easier to hit you. So that's what the kinds of anxiety and fear that become, okay, now if you're not going to fly because you're afraid of this, there's this fear that is really unfounded, meaning that the probability of you crashing is really low, then that's when we come in and we start helping you, giving you coping skills to fight with that phobia, okay? To kind of deal with it. That way you can be able to enter a plane without, let's say, for example, you're supposed to go do something that's very important and you can't go because you're actually really, really scared to get on the plane. Guess what? You're not living your life to your full potential. You're actually now preventing so many people from hearing that awesome presentation that you were supposed to bring because you're anxious and afraid of something that is not really there. Okay. And it could go all the way down to just stepping out of your house or going outside. Some people have what we call agoraphobia, where they don't feel like they can get out. They don't feel like they can be around other people. You have social anxiety, where when you feel like you're going to be around other people outside, your heart begins to race. You feel like you're short of air. You can't breathe. Your palms are sweating. So all those things are things that are getting in the way of you living your life as a normal person. All right. And again, those are just normal things that we go through, but then they can get to the spectrum where it becomes abnormal. All right. But there is a lot of help. Like I keep saying, we have pharmacotherapy and we have psychotherapy that can always help. And we have so many coping skills that you can learn specifically to your situation that can help you cope with those things. All right. So when we look at things like depression, and so many people will keep using the term, oh, I'm depressed. And I want us to use that word really carefully, because before you want to diagnose somebody with depression, they should have at least 5 out of I think it's up to 9 criteria. All right. You want to know if they're feeling, are you sleeping okay? Are you eating okay? Are you losing weight without really trying? All right. Are you just not finding interest in the things that you used to like? You just want to stay at home. You don't have the energy. There's mental fogginess. You're not clear. And okay, those things. And then you have like thoughts of killing yourself, feeling of worthlessness. So all these things, when you start having those issues, then it starts raising a red flag as far as, okay, what's going on? Let's take a deeper dive and make sure that we're addressing certain things. At times it could be related to the seasons. You have so many seasonal issues that will make people, let's say, for example, when you're getting into the winter season, where it's colder, there's no sunlight, things are dimmer, people just don't, so many people, especially in the places where winters are severe, they tend to be depressed just because of the season. And then when the summer comes, they perk back up. So when we know these things, we know how to be there for such people so that they can go through that season, understanding that, hey, this is the condition that's going on and these are the things that we can do. Okay, so those basic things, we always want you to know that you can get the help that you need. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to keep going on being afraid to express yourself. And I keep repeating this because it's so important. And I did a screening. I launched a campaign in Cameroon called Check Up from the Neck Up, where I went in and we were doing a lot of screening, mental health screening. And so many people they were saying that most of the things that they were going through, they did not feel comfortable talking about it because they were afraid that people were going to judge them. And they were so happy to find a situation where somebody came and they opened enough, they come in with a non-judgmental point of view, and they're now free and able to like really say what they wanted to say. Also understanding that their rights of privacy was going to be respected. Nobody has to know, especially when you're speaking to a clinician, especially when you're speaking to a counselor. It's between you and that person. And just being comfortable knowing that you don't have to suffer alone. We'll open up doors for you. We had so many interventions. I still do psychotherapy with them all the way from here, while the Baptist hospital is taking care of the medication part of things. So you see, if they never came and sought help, they wouldn't have ever known that they had what they had, or that help was available and around the corner. So you don't have to feel like you're invincible, or that if you definitely come to seek help, it means that it makes you weak, or that it makes you, especially the terms. It's just that at times I've been staying away from those terminology because it doesn't really reflect the proper way of looking at it. So I tend not to use them a lot. But like somebody will say, oh, it makes me like look like I'm mad, or I'm a crazy person. So those things are definitely not founded. So I want us to begin to look at that in that light. Given the very personal nature of mental health concerns, it's almost very clear that most of the time, what might make me sad might not necessarily make another person sad, or what might tick me off or make me angry or make me anxious might not necessarily make somebody anxious. So the reason why I'm saying this is because when somebody comes to us and they tell us what they're going through, don't brush it off. Don't tell them that, oh, I beg, that's too small. Get over it. No. You want to listen. You want to give them the ear. You want to understand where they're coming from. How is this thing affecting them? And then from there and on, you want to find the appropriate resources to help them. So as somebody who is at the front line, in an organization where all we're doing is to restore quality smiles by doing so many things that we do, right? It is very important that we know this, because we're going to come across such people. And when they come to us, we should never brush it off. We should never take upon ourselves to make them feel or belittle their concern, because that will only make them shy away even more further. And then when it is really worse and we find out, then it's too late, right? So it's so important to be open to not only provide self-care for us or ourselves, but also to be each other's keeper. That way, if somebody needs a shoulder to cry on, be that shoulder for them. At times, if somebody's going through something, you might not even know what to say, but just being there and holding their hand, just being there and providing that ear, that listening ear, means a lot. At times, people just want somebody to listen to them. At times, people just want somebody to cry with them, you see. And when we continue to be very, very open and just willing to be ourselves and understanding that other people can be themselves, then we can be the best support we can ever be. All right. So what I want to do is, I don't know if anybody, I cannot see the comments or the questions. If people have questions about specific concerns or anything that you need more information on, or you want me to be clear in more areas, please do not hesitate. This is the time. I'm more than happy to talk about specific things. That way I'm not just going on and on. I don't know if you're seeing questions or if people are asking questions.
Yeah, I'm seeing some questions. The first one is, what are the coping skills for depression? What would you suggest to be a coping skill for depression?
So for depression, like I said before, it comes around when so many people are feeling like they are worthless. It always starts with, you know what, I'm just down. I don't feel like I can do anything. I don't feel like I can contribute anything. Or the energy, they don't have that energy. They look at life, everything is so dim and glum, right? You see somebody who would sit down and just be like, you feel the physical way of feeling, you just feel like very, 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 very weak, fatigued. Some people just want to sleep all the time. Some people just want to stay in bed. They don't even want to get up. They don't want to lift a finger. They don't want to do anything. They've just given up. You see, some other people will sit down and be like, you know what? I just feel like I should just end my life. So when we begin to look at somebody with depression, once we diagnose you, we actually use a screening tool. It's called the PHQ-9, which basically is just a patient health questionnaire 9, because it has 9 parameters. And if you have 5 to 7 of those, then it starts ringing a red flag. So this score, any score from 10 and above, starts giving me a red flag. All right. If you come in, because there are times when I can feel down, but it doesn't mean that I'm depressed. It doesn't mean that I meet criteria for to be diagnosed with depression. Okay. So depending on the skill and depending on the questions that I answer, I will definitely know exactly what specific things to suggest to you to make you come out of that thing that is holding you down, out of that thing that is making you feel depressed, okay? But if I could give a general answer, given that I'm not specifically seeing one person, I would say the first important thing you want to do for yourself is exercise. People do not understand the power of exercise, physical activity, cardio, heart rate pumping, sweating. There is a lot of endorphins that your body secretes when you're exercising that goes inside to boost you. For those people who exercise regularly, do you know that when you're exercising, you have this high, you just automatically are happy when you're done. When you're wiping your sweat, you're like, yes, you feel so good. That is that feeling that can keep you going every day. If you're somebody who is depressed, at times you will not even feel like getting out of bed. But when you remember how your last exercise felt like, you will roll out of bed. Or when you have that particular support partner, and I always call it accountability partner. Say, for example, make sure that you're surrounded by people who really care about you. You want to make sure that you have relationships that are genuine and people that really, really care about your well-being. That person that will see you lying in bed and say, hey, don't worry, let's go and take a walk. Let's go run. Meet me at the gym or meet me at the junction. Let's just run up that hill and come back. Or meet me, because that person will be that person that will get you out of bed. And I remember from a personal standpoint, there was a time when I was going through some major stuff. I couldn't even get out of bed. I love water, like anything water. I want to be in it. I want to drink it. I like to swim in it. But I didn't even feel like even taking a shower. And I was just like, and my friend called me all the way from Germany and we're talking. And she said, no, I'm not going to let you. No, you're going to get up. You're going to get out of that bed. You're going to go take a shower, right? Do you know what that did to me? Getting out of the bed, her pushing me, her telling me, I'm not going to let you just lie down there. So if I didn't have caring people that I surround myself with, I wouldn't have had that call that would have made me wake up and then gone and taken a shower. Because after I took a shower, the water on my body, I felt a lot better. So you want to go ahead and have coping. You want to have really, really good support system as far as people who care about you. So surround yourself with those people. Exercise. So those are the two things I've said so far. The next thing I want to say is sleep. Just pay attention to your sleep. Practice good sleep hygiene. Make sure that you have a specific time that you go to bed, and then you don't crowd yourself with so many things, especially taking your devices to bed with you. So many times we take our phones, we go through all this bad news, we go through all these things, and then we try to sleep. We can't sleep. We're worried with these things. And then when you don't get enough sleep, you feel tired. Your immune system is down. Anything that comes at you can easily knock you down. So you don't want that. You want to make sure that you practice good sleep hygiene. And this is general. Anybody can do this. It's not even specific to any particular problem, all right? And then spirituality. When you believe in a higher power, when you believe in something that is bigger than you, some people might call it God. Some people are Christians, some people are Muslims. You call it Allah, you call it anything. That higher power that you relate to, you want to have a deeper relationship with it, because there are times when you will be going through something, and because you believe that there's a higher power that is bigger than you, you will go through it. So don't let go of your spirituality. And remember, I'm saying spirituality, I'm not saying religion. It's not about a church. It's about your spirituality, that belief that you have. Cultivate a strong belief with your spiritual higher being. Everybody practice different they do different spiritual practices. And I'm not here to push something over something. We respect everybody's spiritual beliefs. But that belief that will empower you, you're going to need to hold on to it. Because what if it's in the middle of the night, you can't reach your accountability partner or your loved ones? But there's that constant knowing that I know someone that is bigger than me, that has always been there for me. For me, I'm a Christian. So I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he came and died for me. I believe that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I know that. And then I know that I memorize my scriptures. I keep telling myself when I'm going through a bit challenging situation that wants to make me feel down and depressed, I said, no, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And the moment I begin to tell myself that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, I start begin to feel the strength coming back. So if I was going through a depressed situation, then I will be down. But when I start calling on my higher power, calling on my God, I believe that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Guess what? I start beginning to have the strength. All right. So I'm exercising, right? I am surrounded by people who love me. Even if I'm an orphan, even if I'm in a different country, even if I am a political, I'm a refugee, or I'm somewhere. When you meet, especially an organization like this, find yourself associated with certain organizational bodies that support what you believe in, or that provide the needs that you have. It doesn't have to be a blood relation. It could be anybody that is out there. There's so many good people that are willing to. If you want to belong to a particular church, you have so many support people in your church that can help you go through things like this. So your spirituality, your exercise, your sleep, even what you eat. You want to eat healthy foods that will make you feel good. There are certain foods that you eat that will make you just feel so tired and down. So you want to watch and eat healthy foods, nice leafy greens, vegetables, fruits, all right? Things that are more nutrient dense versus calorie dense, that are heavy and just wearing on you. And people don't understand what you drink, all right? Take care of yourself, self-care. I know that as women, when we do our nails, we do our hair, we feel so good, especially me. I don't know how to do makeup, but I know how to put my red lipstick on. When I put it on, I feel good. When you practice self-care, you just feel good. It adds this extra boost, okay? So you want to look good. Your hair wants to look good. Your body, you don't have to spend so much money. But when you practice self-care, it just kind of brings out that glow, and it brings that inner joy that just beats the depressive spirit. All right. So those are the small things that you can put in. And then we also have things about, like I said, having scriptures that you have in your head, having a lot of mental chatter as far as healthy concepts. Anything that is depressing you, you just kind of shift it. Be able to know how to shift thoughts that don't serve you. Don't dwell in them. I practice meditation, because when I meditate, especially when I'm meditating on the scripture, there's no way any depressing thought can stay, because I have a scripture for you. All right. I'm just going to send that forward. So I practice meditation and I do my deep breathing exercises. So breathing exercises, it's actually evidence-based. And this is not woo-woo science or anything. It is evidence-based that when you are down, when you are out and you're feeling really depressed, there are times when you can cleanse the spirit by just taking 7 cleansing breaths. And when I say cleansing breaths, it's just like you breathe until your lungs are so full with air that you can't take any more in. And then you kind of hold it for maybe like 2 or 3 seconds. And then you just let it all out, like you want to empty your lungs. All right. Just continue to do that. You go all the way. Hold it, hold it, hold it, and then let it out. You just do that. Whenever you're faced with any situation, no matter what it is, just be still and do your cleansing breaths. Right away, you see how the energy is going to shift. Try it. Anybody, please, when you get the chance, try it and let us know. I promise you, when you're facing a difficult situation, when you're overwhelmed, when you're feeling down and out, just take a moment. It's always best when you do it closing your eyes. And so people do it, especially when you get so angry, you see somebody who just stop and just take a deep breath. You don't know what you've just done. You've helped yourself so much. Because so many times when people are depressed, they're very angry. They get irritated easily. You know, they're so mad at everything at the world, like certain things just get to them quick. But when you're grounded, when you notice yourself shifting in that energy, just stop for a moment, close your eyes and do your cleansing breaths. Right there, you have that mental clarity. I promise you. It's just that I don't want to take your time. I would have let all of us do that, practice the cleansing breath right now. But what it is you take air in all the way. You feel your lungs as if you're breathing in all the way. Your lungs is filling up. to the point where no more air can come in. And then you hold it just for a second or two or three. And then you let it all out like you're emptying your lungs. Please practice it, okay? These things will help you. These things will help you. I hope I was able to give you enough to use, but I'm always open for any maybe personal or particular concerns that people might have.
Oh, yeah.
That helped.
You fill our bucket with lots of tools to use. I am
Yes.
so grateful. That question was really addressed there. And we will be using this as part of our programming package, included in our programming package, especially when we are engaging with individuals that we engage with, because a lot of times myself and the organization, we are shifting with the word, this is an orphan child, or this is a vulnerable or poor or less privileged child. And so one of the things that you mentioned today was the use of terminology.
Yes.
Because terminology is very important in defining who people are. And it's also very important in the way you present somebody to another person. When we talk
Very true.
about letting stigma go, and yet we are still using terminology that are degrading to describe people and the individuals that we serve, then there is still a problem. And so I'm so happy that you mentioned the use of terminology, and one which you said, instead of saying that the person committed suicide, we say the person died through suicide.
Yeah, they died by suicide.
They died by suicide. And so those terminology there are very important. Now, how would you advise that as a company we address the individuals that we serve, partly orphan children? I don't know if I'm already correcting myself, or children that are
Yeah.
orphans, or um, children with disability.
So,
Um,
okay. So the key
or
word,
disabled
the key
children.
word is to lead with person first. Is to lead with person first. So you identify the person that is going through that thing. So it's not that thing that is that person. So if you're ever in any situation where you're trying to figure out what to say, you're gonna say, oh, this is this is someone with, you know, schizophrenia, or someone with diabetes, versus, oh, that diabetic, or that's schizophrenic. You see what I'm saying? So that makes it you know, you can say this child this child that's, you know, that's orphaned, or that's an orphan. So you identify the person first. And I can do research to see what the stigma-free phrase will be. I'm not sure for the one for I think just saying that this is Mary with an orphan. She's, you know, but when you
Right.
put the person first, you're always addressing the person, and then comes the situation. So the situation cannot be first. The person has to be first. So it's person first. You
Sounds good.
can say this manic girl. No, this young girl with a diagnosis of mania. You see what I'm saying? So they are a person before mania can come. Mania does not identify them. They are this awesome human being that is just battling these manic episodes. Or you cannot say, oh, this depressed girl. No, this girl who is, you know, battling depression, or who has been diagnosed with depression. I don't know if it helps.
It does help, and that is what we do emphasize that a lot in our trainings. And so I just wanted affirmation from an expertise in the health field, a practitioner, you know, an expertise like yourself who really does this diagnosis and assessment, so that the team will understand the essence and the real reason why it is very important to make right choices in the words and
Yes.
how to use these words in identifying people. One of our slides that we presented today before the presentation started says, I am not my illness. I am
Yes.
me. I am Marie. And Marie, who is having challenges with this or that.
Perfect. That
So
is
it's
spot on.
very important that we understand that. So that question actually coming from my end because I wanted the team to really hear that from another perspective, another practitioner who is in the field and actually doing the work.
Right. So that was spot on. Do we have any other questions?
Yes. Some people were asking about some of the things that you mentioned. I don't think people understood about what a post-traumatic stress is.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for using I just assumed and just using the word without really saying what it was. So post-traumatic stress is actually stress that is brought upon you because of certain traumatic events that you went through, okay? And it's not really a disorder until it's been ongoing for a certain length of time. So for example, you went through rape, okay? And somebody raped you. You came out of it, you're living your life, but you realize that, and let me use a specific example, maybe you drive it home. I met an individual who was an amazing person. She was serving me at I went to send some money, and we were talking and was telling her about mental health stuff and the things I do. And this lady was like, wow, I'm so happy that you are embarking on mental health challenges, because and the moment she started talking, she started crying. She started crying because she was raped when she was 8. So it is post-trauma, because that rape happened at 8, but see, it's still affecting her at age 56 because of what happened. So we call it post-traumatic stress. So it's after the event. Yes, when you're going through a rape situation, it's very, very traumatic. But when that trauma keeps coming after the effect, especially years and years and years, then it's called a disorder now. So it becomes post-traumatic stress disorder, because that stress that she went through, she started crying and she was shaking. She said she cannot have a clock in her house because the person that was raping her had a clock and she could hear the hour, the second hand beating. So each time she hears the second hand of a clock, it triggers that trauma again, and she starts experiencing the stress that she went through. So it's, even though they're not actively raping her right now, but she's still living the thing in her head. So it becomes a disorder. Her husband cannot wear a watch because it brings back that trauma. When she sees that clock, the watch, and that's associated with a male, she begins to feel that effect again all over. So that is it's a very bad disorder to have. When I typically don't use the word bad or good, but I feel like it's a very intense disorder to have, because when you go through that, just imagine every day, especially when you're married and your husband is trying to be with you, and all you're thinking about is the event that happened. And again, we have a lot of resources for that. It's not like a death sentence. It just takes a lot of psychotherapy to be able to go through that. And then one of the things that they did in their house is they don't have a clock with the second hand, so that she cannot hear the clock ticking, because it triggers the traumatic experience again. And then her husband doesn't wear a watch. So she was sharing this with me, even though she's 56 now, she still was crying about it. So that is what post-traumatic stress disorder is.
Thank you for sharing that. A lot of us have worked with individuals who are having that challenge, especially the example that you gave. And sometimes the team needs to understand how to address this, especially say if the lady that you're talking about was crying and you'll be like, can you stop crying? Let's just talk about the moment right now. That has passed. Just let it go and focus about now and focus about tomorrow.
That's
That will
dangerous.
not be a good answer. That will be a dangerous answer. That will
Yes.
add from that trauma. It will add to the trauma. Then it will add rejection right there. And it will add that fear to share it. It will add that challenge. She will be afraid to voice it out every time the trauma comes and attacks her. She will not be able to even share.
Yes, and
So
people like that can end up killing themselves because they don't have an outlet. They don't have a way out. They feel like people don't understand. People don't believe them. So why waste my time trying to, I might as well just end the pain by taking my life. So it's dangerous. You do not shun them, do not tell them what, like, move on from the pain. No, they need psychotherapy. And if you're not trained in that modality, be trained to know where the resources are. Make sure you know who to call, who to send these people to. Do not say words that will cause more damage, more harm, more trauma, more stigma. So know the resources. The best thing is to listen. Listen, be present for the person. And once you listen, you give them that ear. Remember, I said before, at times we might not know what to do because we're not trained. We don't have the skills to do anything. But what we can do is we can listen. We can try to understand, and we can send them to the right direction.
sounds good. So majority of the time, we still have a few minutes. Majority of the time, we work with children. And one of the training that we offer is the importance of understanding that children can also experience these challenges. And because they are children, it's even more challenging because they don't even know how to share it, when to share it. I know that I know a child who was battered um, just by the fact that the child was an orphan and is living with foster parents and here and there family members. And the child was battered, and the child could not even tell anyone that he or she is battered. And the child could not also complain, partly because the child felt like, okay, if I complain, nobody will listen, and I might as well be driven away from this house. So the child just sat there. I was burying it, and sometimes the child will bear it with wounds, physical wounds, and things like that. And the interesting thing is, a similar program, like one of the programs that we are organizing, even the teachers were so hard on this particular child. And they did not understand that that child has been going through being battered at home. And now that she comes to this program, and she's also battered, basically, verbally abused. And when they give report about her, they give report echoing a lot of the negativity. And so even the foster parents, they they find no value of letting her stay there because only negative report is being echoed back. So we are smart restorers and we work with children. What would you advise that we be careful and watchful of, or signs that we can see and know that a child is suffering from these things that we've talked about as well?
Okay, so jumping there real quick, so I can answer your question in time before I head on to work. What I would say with children is children are very delicate, and like you said, they might lack the vocabulary to express what is going on. They even lack the actual mental capacity, in the sense of that they're not even grown. Their frontal cortex is still growing. They might not have that executive function up to par or know what to do. So that's why when you're a minor, you cannot make certain decisions by yourself because you don't know better. It is us, the adults, that are supposed to protect kids. And these are the things that really make my heart bleed when someone is going to be the one that is inflicting pain on a kid. When you know that this kid doesn't know any better, what can a little kid do to you to the point where you have to batter them? Now, as children, or maybe, they have certain things that they show, they have certain signs, and this might take a little bit longer. That way, we don't, if I want to go in depth into the various signs to look for, or because we have to break it down in the different developmental stages, because kids have different stages. So a 1-year-old will not present like a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old will not present like a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old will not present like an 8-year-old. Even in the psychosocial development, even in the physical development, and so many things that we're looking at. But now, in a general term, when you look at the child and you know that, hey, normally a child this age should be able to do this, do this, do this. Some kids will be retarded. Some kids will regress into younger stages. Let's say, for example, you see a kid that's sucking the finger. That's supposed to be way out of that. Let me know you're sucking the finger, because it applies to so many other things and it might throw everybody off. Let's say kids are supposed to normally be playing and jovial and innocent and just being happy for that. Just that's who kids are. And then you notice, that's how you even know when a kid is sick. You be like, the way that child is just sitting down there, something is wrong. And then you check their forehead, guess what? They have a fever, right? So when you start noticing that a kid is withdrawn, a kid is more afraid, they cannot maintain eye contact, they're always constantly looking down, or something startles them and they jump easily. Or you might even be raising your hand to scratch your head, and the dog, as if, so then you're gonna be like, oh, maybe this child has been battered. So they think that hand is coming to them. That's why you see them doing that. They're constantly jumping. They're very, very not at ease. They're not relaxed, right? You can notice that. A child that's too docile, that otherwise shouldn't have been that way, it will warrant you to look into her situation, or his or her situation, to kind of understand what is causing the change in the normal psychosocial development of a child that age. That will clue you in. If it's a kid that can talk, you want to make sure they're comfortable, they trust you. You want to make sure that they feel very at ease in your presence. Mm-hmm. And then they can now tell you something that, oh, auntie, that uncle is beating me or something. Or when you see a kid that is totally detached, a kid that doesn't have any bond, any attachment with anything, they don't really, whether you leave them or not, they don't even cry when you go. They don't cry when something is going on, because they've been battered to the point where they've given up. A kid that is not really responding to the normal psychosocial stages. Again, I say that if I want to start telling you what the psychosocial stages will be, it will take forever. That will be a whole training on its own. But when you start noticing that anything that a normal kid that age is supposed to be doing and they're not doing it, those are red flags. Those are red flags. And when you're dealing with children, again, when you put the cultural context, because in Cameroon or in most African places, we believe in beating a child. I'm gonna kill you. That's the term they even use. Can you imagine? It's so wrong. These are kids, they don't know any better. There's a way to correct kids without necessarily like battering them or abusing them. And the teachers should know better. In that case, I feel like every teacher should be trained to be able to handle certain things, because here in the US, it is even in the schools that kids that are even identified as being battered at home. In America, if your kid does not come to school, if your kid comes to school and dare presents with any signs or anything, they're calling the law enforcement on you. So the teacher should be protecting the kids and not being the ones battering them. The teacher should be trained to know how to do certain assessments. Awareness. I'll be more than happy to go to that school that was that teacher that was training that kid, so that we can make the teachers become aware. That is a big piece. Mental health awareness. That's the big piece for me. Raising that awareness. Without that awareness, we're in trouble, especially for vulnerable kids, especially for kids who can speak up for themselves, especially for kids who are not strong enough to fight back, especially for kids who are not strong enough to stand up and speak up and be like, no, I put my foot down. Don't hit me anymore. Don't beat me anymore. I'm just a kid. I'm trying to be a kid. Let me be a kid. All right. The parents who will not also take the time to love that kid and ask the kid and be like, hey, what is going on? How are you feeling? Just asking that kid, how are you? How are you, sweetheart? You know what that means? Or how are you feeling? Are you hungry? Did you eat today? What did you eat? Ooh, tell me about your day. How did your day go? Kids will reveal a lot. When you come down to them and show that you care for them genuinely, wanting to know how their day went, a kid will open up. Or you can be playing with them, you can read the book to them, or you can tell them to tell you the favorite movie or the favorite food or something they like doing. You see how they'll light up. And you begin to take kids naturally will like to play and like to do all these things. When you see a kid who does not want to play or be around certain people or do certain things, it is a red flag. And we need training. For one, I want you to train your staff on how to handle kids. And these are things that we can do a collaborative work on, okay? So we'll take this one, I'll pin it on the wall. We have to get back to it because I'm very passionate about kids. As a mom, I believe that, every kid should have the opportunity to have joy, be protected, be looked at, in a way that is very special because they're angels, right? And I don't want us to leave the cultural aspect out of it. And this is an area that we need to do tremendous work on. Raise awareness, use media so that it could go far.